So, what if the Quran wasn't just a book that you read from front to back, but was actually a map that you could explore? Today, we're diving into a really fascinating theory that looks at the entire scripture as a kind of cosmic guide, a hidden structure that doesn't just chart sacred history, but the journey of the human soul itself.
Our whole journey today starts with this really provocative idea from our source material. It says the Quran isn't linear but a Mobius loop. Now, if you've never heard of one of those, just picture a strip of paper. You give it a single twist, then connect the ends. What you get is a surface that looks like it has two sides, but it's actually just one continuous loop. This metaphor suggests the Quran isn't a straight timeline, but a text full of interconnected, repeating cycles where the end is always connected back to the beginning.
So, this is really the big question we're digging into. How can a sacred text act like a cosmic map? What are the main pathways on this map? And, what do they tell us about creation, about divine guidance, and about the landscape of our own souls?
Okay, so the key to understanding this whole loop idea lies in three primordial elements that pop up all over the Quran. And these aren't just, physical things. They're symbolic dimensions that, according to this interpretation, literally form the fabric of existence.
First up, we've got clay. This represents the dimension of form and time. It's the stuff our bodies are made of, the very thing that anchors us to this physical world. The Quran says it plainly, we did certainly create man out of clay. So that's our starting point, the raw material of our entire earthly experience.
Next is smoke. This represents the dimension of knowledge and revelation. There's a verse that describes God turning to the heaven while it was smoke, which suggests this primordial state of pure, unformed potential. So in this view, smoke is kind of like the raw material of divine knowledge, just waiting to be shaped into guidance.
And finally, we have fire. This is the dimension of trial and authority. The Quran tells us, and the jinn we created aforetime from scorching fire. It's the element of Iblis, right? His pride was born from his fiery nature. So fire symbolizes those intense tests of the ego, that big challenge of submitting to a higher power.
Now here is the absolute key. These three elements, clay, smoke, and fire, they aren't just sitting there. They're dynamic, repeating patterns. Our source calls them strips. And you can think of them as the very bands that twist together to make that bigger Mobius loop we talked about, with each one mapping a fundamental cycle of the human story.
All right, let's trace the first of these pathways, the strip of clay. This is the story of our physical lives, our connection to the earth, and, well, maybe our greatest weakness.
So let's follow this path of clay. It kicks off with Adam, the first human form, but built into this physical form is forgetfulness, this tendency we all have to lose track of our spiritual origins. This leads to corruption, and the whole cycle is eventually reset by the Great Flood. Here, water acts as an agent of mercy, cleansing the earth, but preserving the physical form in Noah's Ark, ready to start the cycle all over again.
Okay, now for the second strip, the path of smoke. If clay represents our physical body, then smoke represents the divine knowledge that's sent to enlighten that body.
This path tracks the journey of divine knowledge. It starts as that primordial smoke, that unseen heavenly wisdom. Then it comes down and condenses into light through prophets, like the law given to Musa or Moses. And according to our source, this all culminates in the figure of Isa, or Jesus, who is described in the Quran as a word from God, a totally pure manifestation of that heavenly light.
Now this third strip, it's probably the most intense. It is the strip of fire. This is the cycle that represents the ultimate spiritual test of submission and that recurring challenge of pride.
This path maps out a really powerful archetype. The cycle starts with Iblis, the being made of fire, who refuses to bow to Adam's clay form out of pure, raw arrogance. This spiritual pride then gets embodied on a human level by Pharaoh, the tyrant who literally declares himself a god. But the path also shows us the way out. Figures like Idris, who represent the soul that goes through this trial by fire and descends, totally purified.
So, just to recap real quick, we have three strips. Clay maps our physical form and our journey through time. Smoke maps knowledge and light. And fire maps the whole dimension of trial and authority.
But this isn't just some abstract map of ancient history. The theory says this is a map of the human soul. And this is where the cosmic gets really personal. How do these huge cycles actually play out inside each and every one of us?
The idea here is that our very being is like a miniature version of this cosmic structure. We are all made of these three dimensions. We are all walking these three paths, all at the same time.
You can kind of see our soul as being made of these three parts. We have a dimension of form, that's our body, our link to the earth, which follows the path of clay. We have a dimension of knowledge, our intellect, our ability to receive guidance, and that follows the path of smoke. And we have a dimension of trial, our will, our ego, which walks the path of fire.
And this entire framework, it really culminates in a key verse from the chapter called The Inevitable Event. It says that on the day of judgment, all of humanity will be sorted into three distinct kinds, or three groups. And boom, here's the ultimate connection. The three cosmic strips seem to map directly onto these three human destinies. The companions of the left, those are the ones who failed a test of fire, totally consumed by pride. The companions of the right successfully navigate the path of clay, their earthly journey. And the foremost in faith, they're defined by the path of smoke, the people of pure light and knowledge.
So that big, abstract idea of a cosmic Mobius loop becomes something deeply, deeply personal. It's not being presented as a prediction of our fate, but more like a map of our own soul's journey, a chart of all our potential pathways.
And that leaves us with a final question, really a question for you to reflect on. When you look at your own life, your struggles, your hopes, your aspirations, which of these dimensions feels the most dominant right now? Are you navigating the path of clay? Are you seeking the light of smoke? Or are you wrestling with the test of fire? Which strip is mapping your journey right now?